agenda. We will talk about the upcoming events, including the mayor's thing coming up after we hear from our state representative who is serving the second year of his first term. And I would like to introduce to you Representative Walt Blackman. Yay!
Thank you. I gotta tell you, it's good to be home.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel like that I've just been going everywhere. And, a lot has happened. But first of all, I want to say that, do you think there's something kind of familiar with what's going on down here with the mayor and our president?
Yes.
You know what? There's some, I think this is the DC of the West.
Something's really shifting.
Yeah, I think you're cleaning the swamp down there.
It's huge.
I keep telling the mayor I want to come down and just watch.
We're having exciting times.
Yeah. I tell him that I'm going to come down and break some popcorn and watch, because the council meetings are more exciting than the House floor. But you're doing a great job, and it's because you're hitting the target. I was talking to Paul Gosar when I was up in D.C. a couple of weeks ago, and he said, you know when you're making them mad is when you're hitting the target. And you're hitting the target, man, and you are doing exactly what you were elected to do. And if I lived in Payson, I'd be out there voting for you, and I'll still stomp for you and knock on doors for you. So,
Thanks, Walt.
So when are you moving?
Hey, as soon as Christy lets me.
I
Hey,
don't know who wears pants now.
yeah, well, hey, women are a bit smarter than men, so I do get that. So listen, first of all, I want to apologize to you for not being able to be around as much as I liked. However, you did not vote for me to sit around. You pay me to do a job, even though we're not in session. And to the point to where my assistant, I have to get a new assistant again. My assistant has complained to the Speaker of the House that I work too much. It's been recorded that I get more incoming calls than the Speaker. Yeah, to do things, and that's because you pay me to work. Okay, it's not something that I do lightly when I accept your gratitude of payment to do a job that you were elected me for. And I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to continue to go full speed ahead. I was just at the Capitol today talking to my assistant, and I walk in and she's got a stack full of papers. Every time I walk in. At first I started to feel bad. But then I said, you know what, you get paid. You get paid more than I do. So, just do the job. So, they're going to get me a new assistant, someone who can keep up with me. And I look forward to seeing her do that. Brenda Barton, I am so glad that she's in the race. I was glad that John was in the race, and it was a tough lift for him. I told him, I said, when you get in it, you got to be all in. You can't have 1 foot out and 1 foot in. And he is a good man, and he went to you got to give it to a person that will step down for the greater good of the party. And I just want to let you know that John is still going to get out there and knock doors and get petitions signed, and also work hard. Now, he was on the radio, I believe last week when I was in Israel, and he formally withdrew from the race. He also formally asked anyone who was supporting him or has signed his petition to please sign Brenda Barton's petition as well. And I got to also let you know, the leadership is excited that Brenda Barton is running again. They're excited about it. I got a call in Israel from the Speaker, ecstatic about the fact that Brenda is running. So that means that she has done something while she was down there before, and that's, I would ask that you continue to support her like we have in the past. Now, what's been going on with me? Wow. So, I've been in D.C. a couple times. I had meetings with Vice President Pence, one-on-one meetings, talking about what is going on in LD6, Northern Arizona, and the help we need from the Trump administration. If you haven't met Mike Pence before, he doesn't turn it off when the TV goes off. This guy is genuine. This guy is focused on the American people. He is focused on Christ, and he is focused on doing the job, and he is committed to the Trump administration. And he's committed to the people of northern Arizona. And I was pleased and I was happy to hear that. So was President Trump. I haven't spoken to President Trump as of yet. However, talking to his senior staff, they know that we are here. They know that we have a voice and that we have a vote of confidence for him. So I would ask that we continue to support the president as we already do, and his administration and all he wants to do. Had an opportunity to go to Israel. Now we did well, I didn't just go to Israel to go on vacation. I went to Israel, well, I renewed my vows in Israel. On the Jordan River. I gotta tell you,
Nice on the Jordan.
that was awesome.
Did the little fishies eat the hair on your legs?
I don't get in the water like that. Christy got in the water, yeah. I went to the place where Christ was baptized. I walked the streets that he walked on his way to being crucified.
Wow.
I saw and touched in the cave where he laid. Now that experience alone, with all the other things I was able to do there, when we're talking about remembering Christ, verified to me that what we are doing here in our country matters. Verified that God made our country and that he loves us. And the great sacrifice that Christ gave for us, I don't mean for this to be a spiritual tale, but I think it's important that you know this. That Christ, religion, and God has a place in our hearts and our homes and in our House of Representatives. And thank you. And I'm going to continue to bring that back. I was able to talk to a guy that was a colonel in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. He was an infantry guy. And he told me about the 6-Day War and all he went through. And he told me, he said, you know the difference between your young people and our young people? And I said, no, tell me. He said, every one of them have to serve. Every single one of them. They have to serve, even the women. And I was like, yeah, you got a point. He said they still love the iPad, and they still love YouTube, and they still love all the other stuff that young people do. But their concept of right and wrong for country is far above some of our young people.
Oh, yeah.
Now, how can we get there? We can't make everybody serve in the service. But what we can do is communicate what we have learned in our lives as adults to young people, even if they're not our own. So I want you to think about three things. I'll get on Israel a little bit again. I want you to think about three things. First of all, I want you to think about, are your children, my children, your grandkids, or someone you know as a young person, better off today than you were when you were their age? Are they better off when we're talking about security? When we're talking about peace of mind? And when we're talking about being able to feel that their Constitution really supports their beliefs? Now, I don't want you to answer that, but I want to talk about security. One of the major issues we have in security is our border, immigration. Does anybody know how many folks crossed our southern borders last month in October? Or in October? 35,000 people crossed, undocumented, through our southern borders. Now, when I was in Israel, I was able to talk to the prime minister, not the prime minister, but the foreign minister, and the former defense minister about the border situation, and actually go to the border. Guess what? A wall works. It works. Not only do they have one wall, they have two walls. And it works. because they have cut down the amount of illegal immigration into their state, into their country, by simply building a wall and the people supporting that. Why is that? Well, if you think about Israel, there are countries that surround Israel that want to destroy Israel. They want to destroy them.
It's all Middle East.
So their concept of a wall is more of survival. Well, what is the difference of our concept? If we think about California, what's going on in California? Not counting the 35,000 people that entered our border last in October. Think about California as a sanctuary state. Now, when folks enter a sanctuary state, do you think they're going to stay in a state where we have open interstate borders? We border California. We are getting those illegal immigrants coming across. And the question this colonel asked me, he says, how do you do that? How can you as a nation sit and let traffic into your country without checking them? And I didn't have an answer for him. I just really didn't. Yes, sir.
I've got an answer.
Yes, sir.
We remodeled our condo before we sold it, and I asked a good friend of mine for contractor recommendation on tile and stonework. He says, I've got a guy who will beat anybody else's price. He said he does excellent work. Any problem we had, he fixed it right away. So I interviewed him. And one of my questions was, are you a citizen? No. Do you have a contractor's license? No. Do you have a bond? No. Well, why should I do business with you? The people that you're competing with and coming $1,000 under bid are people who are obeying the law. They got their citizenship. They're bonded. They're licensed.
Exactly.
And they have to charge more.
Exactly.
And so when
Well
the
ahead.
good people in this country employ illegals, knowing that they're benefiting from it, there's an ethics question
They're
here.
breaking the law too.
And our problem, yes, and they're breaking the law, and they deserve the $1,000 fine. So the point is, not necessarily trying to convince an illegal who comes across the border is doing wrong, because he's already told he's doing right. But the people in this country who know better, who should know better, and say, look, if you're not going to obey the law, then we're going to nail you.
Yeah, and I agree. You know what? You need to come to Israel the next time. I wish I had that answer. But that's exactly right. Because we have people in our own country who are taking advantage of the system. However, if you remember back in 2016 when our president said that folks that are coming across the border are not all good. I can guarantee you out of the 35,000 that came across in October, not every single one of them are good. Guarantee it. Somebody in that plane, that bunch of people who come across are not coming across for the better or for the benefit for us. Somebody who's come across the border has affiliations to ISIS, has affiliations to MS-13, has affiliations to some other gang or some sort of activity that is illegal that goes across our moral principles. Does a wall work? I saw it firsthand. A wall works. I saw it firsthand. A country can unite even with their young people when everybody has skin in the game. The problem now, the Democrats don't have any skin in the game. The Democrats want everything for free. They want everything right now, and they want to do it irresponsibly. So I want you to think of the 10,000 feet line, the nationals. When Joe Biden came into the race, he was at 44%. Now he's at 24%. Now it's looking like Elizabeth Warren may be that person running against our president. And what is her biggest deal? Healthcare, which will affect us in Arizona. She has a plan that she wants to push of a healthcare for everybody in the rich part. Her healthcare plan is $20 trillion the first year. What's our national debt? 23 trillion dollars. Who do you think is going to pay that? Us.
Our grandkids. Grandkids.
Us. How does that affect us as Arizonans? We're going to have to pick up a piece of that pie. It's going to absorb, it's going to come into our budget, into our revenue streams, because somebody is going to have to pay for that. And it's not going to be illegal aliens. They're undocumented. It's not going to be that person who is a generational welfare recipient. And it's not going to be the left because they think that everything is for free. It's going to be hard-working Americans in our district. And that is where we're at. So I can't do anything about the health care bill, but I can do something about bringing the conversation piece about protecting our southern border in Arizona. What we need to do are a couple of things. Number one, we need to use the resources we have in Arizona right now because the left is not letting Donald Trump build that wall. What resources can we use in Arizona? I think we need to deploy our National Guard down there to the border. Put them on Title 10, which is full-time active duty, where they are paid and get all the benefits and they're taken care of, their families are taken care of, until we can take care of that problem right now. We need to go outside of our state.
Excuse me, just a second. If you can't remember if you signed somebody's, look at the pages that are already filled out behind and see if your name's already on there. And independents and Republicans can sign.
Can I use that one instead? I keep tripping over this.
Sure,
Clumsy.
okay. Taking lessons from me.
All right, okay. So, where was I at?
I'm sorry.
We need to use the National Guard, our National Guard. The governor controls the National Guard, not the federal government. We can put those folks under Title 10. And then we need to, yes,
Is there any way the left can get a federal judge to put an injunction against using the National Guard?
yes, and they would try to do that. They would try to do that if they took the House. If they took the House, they would run some sort of legislation. Okay, where was I?
Sorry.
National Guard,
National Guard.
on the border.
Now, if I were in SE, that's exactly what I'd do. I would deploy the National Guard. The second thing I would do, I would look outside the state to find resources to build a wall around our southern border in Arizona. I've spoken to people in Israel, and there are people that are prepared to do that for us. I'm having a meeting with them next week, or on the 11th, to talk to them about ways to bring technology to Arizona to help secure our southern wall. If we don't do it, who's going to do it? The president has his hands tied because the liberals do nothing right. All the while, we have people pouring into our state, into our country, that want to do us ill harm. Not every person who immigrates is a bad person, but there are some people that are bad. And we need to protect ourselves. And we do that with responsible government. We do that on a level of the state and the state to be conservatively responsible in securing our borders. We do that by enhancing our infrastructure in our state. And how do we do that? We make sure that we pass good legislation that balances our budget, as I was able to do last session, of $11.8 billion, and also increase teacher spending of $413 million. We have to take care of these issues that we have within the state, because the left is not going to let the president do it. The left has the president tied up in this impeachment, which I call nothing less than an overthrow of the government. When I was in D.C., I was speaking with Congressman Biggs, who is the Liberty Caucus chairperson. And he's told me that Republicans are being shut out. You see it on the news. They are being shut out of the process to defend the president. That there is nothing in the tapes that signifies or says anything about a quid pro quo, this or that. But what the Democrats fail to remember is that their own people do the same thing. President Barack Obama, nobody said anything when he had a car full of cash, went to an airport in the middle of the night. He's still walking around free. Why do I tell you that 10,000 foot level? Because it affects us if we don't get out and vote. It affects our country and our state. Now let's drill down to more state levels. Things that we can really control. We can really do things. First of all, you know the House is really tight. If we lose one seat, we lose the House. Gone. All bets are gone. We lose the majority. We lose all our seats in chairmanships or chairpersonships. We lose how the bill process is conducted. And what are we going to see? Well, we got a gal out there in Flagstaff that is running for our district, who is the mayor right now, and a person named Art Babbitt, who is a socialist. I'm going to show you later on how he's a socialist. If you take a look at Flagstaff, and we talk about security, remember those three things I was talking about? We talk about security. We've got a mayor that has run up a tax increase on Flagstaff, and he missed the mark by $1 million. So Flagstaff is stuck with $1 million price tag. They also are losing their state-earned revenue because of a pay raise increase that they imposed on their voters and their people by going against state statute. So now they've got to pay that back. Now this is somebody who's running for LD6. They can't even manage Flagstaff. Now, Mayor Evans was in my office before I went to Israel. And she says to me, with her staff, has all her staff here, was supposed to impress me. She says, we need to know how much the state is going to impose on Flagstaff for the in-state revenues that we're going to lose. I said, I don't know. I don't work in JLBC. And guess what? That was a bad decision you made. You know what her answer was to me? It was the people's fault. It went to the ballot. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So when things go bad, you're going to blame the people? You're going to blame the voters when things don't go right, when you have the narrative as a senior executive in the city? That's your answer? Is that what you're going to do for LD6 when you try to raise taxes? When you put us in debt? When you try to do things like Tucson and make it a sanctuary city? Are you going to blame the voters when we start looking like California politics? Room was quiet. And I said, listen, that was a bad leadership move on your part. I'm not going to help you out of this one because you know what she wanted me to do? They wanted me to pass that cost on to everybody else in the district. They wanted Payson to pay for their decision. That's like the mayor doing something in this town and wanting Snowflake to pick up the tab. Does anybody want to pay my phone bill this week? That's what that's like. That's the kind of irresponsible folks we have on the other side. That's why it's important to get out and vote in this election. Now we talk about infrastructure. What's most important to us right now? Roads. Roads. We passed a budget last term, or last session, to increase road structure in our district. And I'm proud to say that they are widening I-17, but not at the pace that I want. I talked to the director of transportation. I said, I'd like for you to start up there in northern Arizona instead of at the northern tip of Maricopa. How about we do that for a change?
What a concept.
You know what he said to me? No one's ever talked to me about that before. I said, I know Bob's talked to you about it because guess what? I've seen the emails. So stop with your lies. I know Brenda's talked to you about it because she's part of the land. So how about we do that? Because if we don't, I'll be in your office every single day. Next session. Or better yet, let's do it this way. I'm the representative and you'll be in my office every day. Explaining to me why you are not developing that infrastructure that we so badly need.
Good for you.
So we have to do those things. Thank you. And that's what I do. I don't mind ruffling feathers in my foxhole to make sure that I'm doing the job that you put me down there to do. It's important that I do that. It's important that we work together. It's important that you know exactly what I am doing. So since the session has ended, does anybody know how many miles I traveled?
A lot.
15,000. Talking to people, going place to place, not only just talking to people in the district, but talking to people around the state, around the country, and around the world about LD6. When I am looking at the foreign minister of Israel and about their wonderful technology that they can bring to protect our election process, because we have a problem with our security in elections, guess what I do? I do the same thing Maricopa does. I say LD6 first, Maricopa last. We had some representatives from Maricopa, and they were like, let me get on in this conversation. I said, no, you stay back here, because guess what? It's LD6 time right now. You talk to them about your issues on your time, not on my time. Everything that I do, I put LD6 first. Every conversation that I start with somebody who doesn't live in our district and end with in our district, LD6 comes out. I am tired, and I was tired of us being part of the freaking menu. We're at the table. We're at decision-making table. Now, how do I make decisions? I make decisions by the input that I get from each and every one of you folks and people that correspond with me. If there are issues in our district that need to come to light to me, I make sure, and I think I've proven that, to get back with you and have a solution. And not a bunch of what ifs, or buts, or this, or that. Or it's not going to work because it's too darn hard. We are at a state now in our country where it's going to be hard. The left platform is high taxes, more spending, late-term abortion. Who wants that in their life?
And red flag laws.
And the red flag laws. The red flag laws is nothing more than an encroachment on our constitutional rights. That's all it is.
Do you see that?
Yes, I did. Why do we as Americans have to put aside our rights for someone else to have a political agenda? Why is it okay for someone on the left to say, you know what, your constitutional rights really don't mean much? You know why they don't like the Second Amendment? They don't like the people who support the Second Amendment. It's not the guns that they don't like.
Right.
It's the people that represent that. It's the people that believe in freedom. It's the people that believe in liberty, accountability, and responsibility. They don't like the people. Imagine that. They're not addressing the firearm issues. They're not. When I was in Israel, you had people walking around with automatic weapons, with ARs slung in their back. Normal people. I got pictures of it. I'll put it on my Facebook. Chris and I were walking up the street, and these two guys, the guy and the girl, was walking down. They had an M4, an AR, just walking in shorts and just chilling with a soda. I'm like, what? And I talked to this colonel and said, really? And nobody? He said, hey, we don't have mass shootings. Everybody's got a gun. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. When I was going through the airport in Israel, you go through like 6 different securities. And they're all taking your picture. They're scanning it to increase security in the country. And guess what? A couple years ago, that method of security was introduced to the Congress right after they took over. Nancy Pelosi went to Israel with a delegation, and they showed her the same thing they showed our delegation, how we can increase our security in airports. You know what she said? We don't want to do that because it's profiling.
Because it's what?
It's profiling. You know what the Israelis told me? They said, yeah, you're darn right we profile. We profile everybody. Because we don't want to get blown up. We profile black people, we will everybody, even your mama. Why? Because they want to keep their state safe. They want to keep their people safe. And when they scan your picture, it's going through their whole database. And when you leave the country, they know exactly where you've been. They knew exactly what hotel I stayed in. They know exactly where I came from. They know exactly where I went. But we got 35,000 people crossing into our borders because the Democrats want an open border, they want an open state, they want sanctuary states. Just like the folks that I am running against from Texas. Imagine that. A country, a state that is smaller than the state of Colorado can control that when the folks around them want to annihilate them. Do you think ISIS wants to have a picnic with us when they come over to our borders? You think they want to go to church with us? They don't. From first-hand knowledge, those folks want to end us as Americans. The only reason why the Democrats and the folks that I am running against want open borders because it equates to votes. They give a damn about our security. And that's appalling. When somebody would rather get elected than protect us. Brings me to Art Babbitt, out of Flagstaff, who's an independent. So he says, anybody know who Art Babbitt is? This is a guy who opened up for Bernie Sanders when he was running in 2016. This is a guy who promotes socialism. This is a guy who walks around with a t-shirt that says Bernie Sanders. And guess what? I didn't believe it until I saw it. I was like, no, not this guy, because he says he's a moderate. So, I'm going to show you exactly, excuse me, what I'm talking about. I just couldn't believe this picture. This guy right here is going to be walking through here. He's been at our parades. He's been down here in Payson talking to me. And why do I show this to you? Because when he talks to you, he says he's moderate. That he is for capitalism. That he is for free market. That he is for individual health care plans. But if you open up for Bernie Sanders, how can you be all those things and walk around with a Bernie shirt and not be a socialist? Which brings me to tell you, if you have to lie to the people who are going to vote for you, what would you do when you're in office? So all I challenge you to do, if he gets on your calendar, is ask him, do you support Bernie Sanders? And if he tiptoes, if he dances, actions speak louder than words. We need honest people running. We need people who are not going to tell you one thing and do something else. We need people that are not scared to stand up to folks that don't like it when I walk around with my Trump hat. That's what happened to me in the airport in California.
Oh, yeah.
I'm standing in line, going through customs, and there's a couple looking at me like I killed somebody. I'm like, Jesus, what the heck did I do? I forgot I had my Trump hat on. You know, Christy, she's aware of everything. And she's starting to get heated up because she knows why they're looking. And she's getting mad, and you know Christy. She starts tapping that foot. I'm like, what is wrong with you and what's wrong with them? So I look over and this guy's looking at me. And he's shaking his head. And he says to me, you know what? How can you be a black person wearing a Trump hat?
Racist.
I'm like, wow, really? That's the best you got? I've heard that already. Tell me something new. And I said, yeah, he's a great president. What do you think? Well, I don't know about all that. I said, well, then guess what? Don't look at the freaking hat. It's called my First Amendment, and I'm going to exercise it all up in your grill. However, it's okay for them to question why I want to exercise my First Amendment right. Think about that.
Your profile.
But you better not say that. So, I tell you these things because we need to know the truth. You already know my accomplishments. I'm not going to go through that. All right? But you need to know what we're fighting for and why this election is important. We've got to get out. We've got to support the mayor. What did you say, $16,000 they got to cost for this thing? They got to pay for this re-election thing? 16,000?
16 to 18, something.
Yeah. Does Payson have $16,000 for nonsense? For an overthrow?
Oh, no.
That's his
Mike's
personal.
Mike's bet.
Yeah.
But for the vote.
For the vote, yeah. Well, how much is that?
30,000.
$30,000. What can you do with $30,000 in Payson? You can do a lot of things.
Find some warming tents for the homeless.
You can do a lot of things.
We can fill in one pothole.
Exactly. Now think on the state level, if we incur those debts the Democrats want to bring to the table, like the health care I was talking about. Now, we balanced our budget. Last year and this year, we have a surplus of $1 billion in our state treasury right now. Why? Because Republicans did the right thing. And we didn't do like, let's go spend it all. What we did is, let's pay down our state debt. Let's put it in a rainy day fund. Let's make sure that we are taking care of our responsibilities. If we lose the house, we're not going to have $1 billion surplus. We're going to have $1 billion deficit added to what we have already. And you are not going to see the kind of Republican Arizona that you know now. So I ask you again, are your kids better off now than you were at their age? And are they in more danger than you are? If we think about it. Our kids are our resources. I love my 5 children. I want my children to be able to keep and bear arms. I want them to be able to exercise their constitutional right regardless of what they have on their head. I want them to be able to pick the school that they want my grandkids to go to. I want my kids to go to a school where they're not pushing pornographic sex education and calling it health ed. I want to belong to a country that doesn't believe in late-term abortion, but believes in inequality for people who look like me to killing 900 babies, black babies a day, due to abortion. I want to live in a country where since 1973 to now, 50 million babies have been aborted. 50 million. Where have we come to? 61. Where are we at now? When a person can carry another human being for 9 months and then abort it and call it women's health. I don't call it women's health, I call it murder. I call it genocide. I call it robbing of our future. How do we fight against that? We get out and vote. We get involved like you are. We work hard at the polls. We make sure our election process is secure and safeguarded. We make sure that we don't let the left push us around. And I'm not saying we need to get in their face and go to fisticuffs, but it is a bare knuckle fight when they are trying to overthrow our government by using impeachment. It is a bare knuckle fight when they go after men like him because they don't like the fact of his integrity to check the process. Think about that. They don't want him to look at the process. If they'll do that to Tom and to the president and to me, what are they going to do to you?
How many threats have you had?
Oh, too many.
Talk about it.
Well,
Okay, should we do Q&A? Yeah.
we'll do Q&A and I'll talk about those threats too. So let's do it. Let's do some Q&A and yes, sir.
Could you comment on Benjamin Netanyahu's ongoing
Yeah.
problem over there?
Yeah.
Here, Shirley.
Okay, so we all know that he's been indicted for some sort of fraud. And it's funny how that came out when the president was being impeached. Right? So they have, their system is crazy over there. Their system is they have 2 major parties plus all these other little offshoot parties. Okay, they have to get a majority of people to be signed up to support their party, and that's how they pick their prime minister right now. So what's going on right now, Netanyahu had to get 40 something folks signed up on his petition to keep the current government that they have. What happened is that he didn't get those votes. Since he didn't get the votes, the next guy, Lieberman, gets 24 hours to do that. And he didn't do it. So if the two major parties can't do that, then they have to go into a third election. Now, they've had 3 elections in a year. Wow. 3 elections in a year. Now, what they are trying to do is the left party over there, or the middle or center left, which is Lieberman, are not in line with Trump policies. They didn't like the fact that Trump moved the embassy back to Jerusalem. They didn't like the fact that Trump had the Iron Dome facility and the equipment made here in Arizona. It's made in Tucson. It protects them. They didn't like a lot of things that the Trump administration did. And here's something that you don't know, that Netanyahu and Trump has worked together with and why they are against him. Everybody thinks that President Trump is a racist against Muslims. They do. That's the narrative. But there's this thing called the Trump Plan. Have you heard of the Trump Plan in Israel? The Trump Plan allows Arabs and Muslims to be able to get educated, to send them to school to learn Hebrew. Now, traditionally, Muslim women in that country cannot go to college in Israel because the main language is Hebrew, and they're not allowed to learn Hebrew in their homes. So what President Trump has done is that he has given Israel additional aid to educate Muslims so they can go to universities and they can learn just like everyone else. But over here, people will say that he's a racist. We were shocked when we heard that. And we didn't hear that from some person off the street. We heard that from the deputy mayor of Jerusalem. She was sitting right next to me this close. It's called the Trump Plan. There are people who have Trump banners on their balcony in Israel. Think about that. So they are going after him because he and President Trump have an alliance that is unbreakable. And Israel always says this about protecting our borders and wars. They will never ask America to fight their wars. They won't do it. Isn't that something? Isn't that what the president's been saying? Handle your own wars, handle your own business, pay your own bills. So, they're going after him because of that. So, what's the next question?
Okay, do we have a question on this side?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Who is it? Who had the other question over there, Marlene? Pardon me? Somebody right there.
I think Marlene.
Oh, okay. Orville has a question. Hang on. Okay, Orville.
Yes, coming up in about a year, I'm going to have a gold star on my driver's license in order to fly.
Yeah.
I am very concerned about election integrity, and if we have to have gold stars on our driver's license to fly, shouldn't that same gold star license be required to vote?
You know, you've been looking at my notes? This guy been sneaking in my office? Yeah. That's a great point. And I think we should. So I'm writing legislation next session that does that. That does exactly that. Because I don't think that the Secretary of State is aggressive enough in our election laws. Because why? Well, she's a Democrat. Of course, she wants to lose. Okay? But you are exactly right. We need that type of technology and structure in our voting process. And I also think we need to have the DMV talk to the electorate, the office of where we register people to vote, because they're not doing it.
Not doing it right.
And another thing, another piece of legislation I'm writing, who does early voting? Okay, that's a great thing, right? Okay, but guess what? You do early voting every year. You make sure you vote every year, right? You don't wait 5 years, don't vote, and then all of a sudden there's an early vote. It pops up. It's the kind of law that I want to write. that I am going to write for early voters. If you don't vote for 5 years in early vote, guess what? You don't lose your right to vote, but you lose your right to early vote. So you are going to go in and revalidate who you are. You are going to show that ID and say, guess what? I just fell asleep for 5 years, and here I am. I'm ready to vote for Donald Trump Jr. or whoever is in office at that point, at that time. So that's the legislation in your own right. I'm also putting that piece that you talked about, which is, it makes sense. Election security. Yes, sir.
I have been driving since 1963, or thereabouts. That's a long time. And I've never had a gold star on my driver's license. And I don't understand. I mean, I've been here. I haven't been out of the country like you have.
Yes, sir.
I've been here in Fargo until 2001, and then Payson since then. I don't know what happened that I need a star to fly in America anymore. What happened? I mean, I didn't change.
911 happened.
TSA.
911 happened.
Patriot Act.
The attack on this country happened.
Did you hand your
So-
hand up, Wes?
So, can I answer this question?
Oh, yeah.
So, when we look at the war on terrorism, when we look at all that has happened, when we look at what's going on in the Gaza Strip, we look at what's going on across the world, that there is a need for that, and it's a need for increased security. Now, some people aren't going to like it, especially the libertarians. They'll say, "You're infringing on my rights." Yeah, I got it, but I'd rather be alive. Okay? Now, if we take, like I said, that method and putting that star on that driver's license and link it to voter registration, we are going to find out who can vote, number one, okay? And we are also going to be able to tighten up our election integrity. In 2018, it was a mess. We had folks that were harvesting votes. We had votes that were found in somebody's house. And we had people that were pumping up at emergency voting sites and just walking in and voting without any sort of ID. How does that work? I think it's a good thing. I think it protects our people, it protects Arizonans, it protects our election process, and it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Yes, sir.
Okay, wait. Did you have your hand up? Oh, Glenn? Okay.
What's going on, Glenn?
I didn't know whether you were thanking John or you wanted to talk.
No,
You want to talk?
sorry.
Okay.
You know, I had the privilege of going to Taylor, Arizona with Jim Ferris and seeing that exciting event that your missus put on.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I would hope that this spring that she could get with Chris Dorsey and Gary Morris, and we have such a thing here at the Payson Rodeo.
Okay, yeah.
I think that we've got something going on that I don't know how many of us realize. We love our mayor,
Yeah.
Morrissey, but you know what? You haven't got to know his wife. She is of dynamite.
She's a firecracker, isn't she?
And on her behalf, I want to give you 2 pictures here.
Okay, thank you.
And,
So if I could just say a little something about Chris. I gotta tell you, Chris is the hardest working Trump staffer that I have seen in a very long time. I mean, you know, she covers a huge area, and she's everywhere. And I'm talking to Christy the other day, I said, you know, how do I keep up with that? She goes, you don't. We're superstars. I'm a superstar and she's a superstar. Not me, but Christy. So, but you were doing a great job, and I appreciate you. And, yeah. Yes, sir.
I have a question relative to the harvesting of votes.
Yes, sir.
What recommendation would you make to stop the dishonest harvesting of votes?
Yes, sir. A deadline. And as you saw in 2018, so let's think about Representative Thorpe's process when the results were coming out. If we can remember, Representative Thorpe, and it happened to me a little bit too, but not so much. Representative Thorpe started at a high percentage, and when the vote count was supposed to end, he ended pretty high. But as it dragged on, his numbers became closer to the point where he only won that seat by 400 something seats or votes. But he started out at 1,800 when it would have been called. When we call elections, we need to call elections. So it's up to the counties to make sure that they get all those votes in. So if I were Secretary of State, which I am not, I would mandate that cutoff time is that cutoff time. And anything after that, the county is responsible to answer that question to its people of why they didn't get those votes on time. Now, we also need to take a look at how we are computing that, and are we using up-to-date technology to grab these votes? When they come in, they are counted. Yavapai always comes in late for whatever reason, but we all start the day out the same. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Makes sense in
It doesn't make any sense.
Makes sense here.
Well, some folks think that rural Arizonans can't vote, don't know how to vote, so I've already beat them up
It's
about
the
that.
driving after the polls close,
Yeah.
it's the driving
So-
all the way down to Globe.
Yeah, so you shouldn't have to go to Globe. We should have something right here. So you can vote right here. That's why a lot of folks do the mail-in. Okay? But that's the first step that we need to do. We need to have that cutoff date. And those votes that were harvested, they wouldn't have been counted. Hence why we probably have the lady up there walking around in cat boots as our senior senator. And why we have a Secretary of State that is next in line to be the governor. Now, how does the governor get elected? A Democrat slides in, okay, and then the next in line, come on, how does that happen?
Fraud.
So that's where I would start, so I hope that answers your question. Anything else? Yes, sir. Jim.
PSPRS.
Oh, my gosh.
I want to fix this. And, you know, I don't understand how they can go on making the assumptions that they make, you know, and saying, well, here's our contribution this year, you know, for the town. And then these assumptions they're making about future income are unrealistic.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we have to give them our money, they have a fiduciary responsibility back to us.
Yes.
And I think maybe the state needs to step in and help make that, and then maybe they will be proactive and have a reasonable or realistic idea what's going on there and hire the right people to handle those funds and make sure that the investments are in investments that are not going to lose big. It just seems crazy. And the other thing I would like to see Arizona do is, with all government employees, it's a defined contribution program. Be done with it. I mean, if we can have someone start a job at 20 years old and then retire at 55, and we got to pay medical benefits and retirement benefits and everything, who knows what that's going to cost down the road? This is ridiculous what we're doing.
So, I don't know, the folks that do that, the lobbyists that run those types of bills, that want to fix it just like you, for whatever reason, they have targeted me to run legislation to fix that. I brought it up in a conversation in a closed caucus, and then actually I got a phone call today, the lead lobbyist that wants to fix that system said, hey, we've got this administrative piece that we want you to run on retirement. Would you mind running the bill? And they're going to send it to me, so what I'm going to do is I'll send it to you, darling, or sorry, darling. I'll send it to you.
How come we get mixed up
Sorry,
lots?
I'll send it to you and then send it to you folks, and y'all can take a look at it. All right, and if it works, yeah, this works. If it doesn't work, let me know, and we'll make those changes in it. Because they want me to run legislation this session. So as soon as I get the draft, I'll send it out.
You want to raise your hand?
Yes, ma'am.
No. I said when you get it.
Okay.
Oh,
So just real quick to answer a question about, Go ahead.
This isn't political or anything, but thank you for supporting
yes,
no
ma'am.
abortion.
Oh,
You know, America has literally murdered their own workforce
yeah.
in the womb. Those children now would be 50 some years old, almost 60 years old, and
Yep.
even starting to retire.
You are absolutely.
So we've murdered our own workforce, and that's one of the reasons we have the flooding down there.
The other thing on the border, the other thing I'd like to say is, and it's also not political unless there's some politics in it, we don't know, but can you tell us a little bit about that magnificent embassy in Israel?
Yeah, oh yeah. So we know the president moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Israel. And as a delegation, we were able to go there and then meet with the ambassador and meet with some of his staff. And I got to tell you, it's just being there shows a strength of power from both countries. And that the president supports Israel and that Israel supports the United States. And then when we were talking to the defense minister, he said, the deal about the Capitol, I'm sorry, turn this off. The deal about the Capitol is that we always knew that Jerusalem was the capital. It's CNN who did. And we're just glad that the president, just didn't listen to the fake news and moved the embassy to Jerusalem. And if you have a chance to go to Israel, go to the embassy. It is a
I
sight.
went there the week it opened.
Yeah. Now, what they are going to do is they are moving that embassy and they are building a bigger complex. That's temporary right now. And that's under the president's direction. Because he wants folks to know that they're going to sleep on a rock, that the United States supports Israel. And it's a wonderful experience to walk in that building and know that the people of the United States stand with Israel. That's exactly what it is. Yes, sir.
Wes.
Well, I think the talking point as far as abortion is concerned needs to move away from what has been happening as far as, it's the women's right, blah, 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 blah. Okay? What is the right of the child? We've got to protect the child. That is the person that we are protecting.
Exactly.
Period.
Exactly. When does our constitutional rights start? Where do you think they start?
Conception.
At conception.
Conception. But let's look at this. Let's look at this on a. Yeah, that's.
He knows.
Let's look at this on a constitutional level. So, or let's look at this on a medical level. When does a doctor declare you alive?
When you're born.
When the heart beats. All right? When do they declare you dead? When it stops. Okay? Now, medical folks have said that heartbeat will start earlier than we know. Okay, so our constitutional rights start when we are human beings. At conception, to me. We are killing Americans at the sake of a political agenda. If a person is a Democrat, and I've known some Democrats that have been nice, yes. But if a person is a Democrat, they have to support their platform. And their platform is supporting abortion. In the past and in the future. So to make it simple, when we're talking about voting, do you support life or do you support the ending of an American's life under the Constitution? It's simple for me. They don't support life.
Okay.
So yeah, I like what you said.
Wait. We gotta wind it up here. You guys have both had a chance. He had a chance. You got the first question. Okay, Doug, really fast. Because then we can talk to him afterwards too.
From your perspective, what's the likelihood that Arizona will vote to legalize marijuana?
Oh, man. First of all, before I answer that question, Doug, thank you. And I want to tell you why. When I first met you, you were hard as woodpecker lips on me. Yeah, making sure that I was going to do the right thing and I was ready to do this job. Yeah. And I'm so happy and so thankful that you did. He asked me a question when and I know we're going over, I just want to put this out there. He asked me a question when I first started talking. How are you going to stand against the establishment? Remember that? And I said all this wonderful stuff, and he said, okay, how are you going to stand against the establishment? And I said, wow, this guy ain't joking. And he opened my mind to something that I really wasn't thinking about or prepared for. And every time that I deal with the establishment or garbage, I think about, no BS, that I gotta come back and face you saying I did the right thing. And I appreciate you and I thank you. And that's great that you did that. And I know that you're not gonna let up on me, and thanks. So, your question, marijuana, the left wants to push it. They want to legalize marijuana, they're gonna do it through a citizen initiative. They're gonna put it on the ballot. It's going to hurt us because we are going to start to look like Colorado.
Bad.
Yes.
No.
It is going to hurt us. So, how do we keep it off the citizens initiative? We have to get out and let people know we got to vote. If you haven't heard, talk to Andrea Kadar. She has a presentation about how marijuana is going to hurt our state, and it'll blow your mind. Now, at the state and the legislature, what we are trying to do is if it comes to us on the floor, we're voting no. That's a no. We're not going to do that. What the left is going to try to say is it's going to generate money, it's going to put more money into education, and it's not going to do that.
It's going to bring more.
It's going to put more money into the hands of the big pharma who's going to issue these stuff. That's all it's going to do. It's going to put people on the street. It's going to increase homeless like they have in California and Colorado, and we are going to be stuck with that health care additional bill. So, I don't support it. I'm a big no on it, just like I'm a big no on red flag. And the caucus right now is no on it. We may have probably two people that kind of have weak knees, but they're in districts that are leaning more liberal. Somebody came to me and said, well, your district is split. You could lose your district. You could lose your seat if you don't vote for something like that. I said, then I don't get elected. I'm not voting for marijuana, dude. Get out of my office. And he went and told on me from speaking.
Okay, Frank, Marlene,
I hope I answered your
Bed.
question.
Make it quick.
Had one question on a comment you made about a trip to Israel. Getting a trip to Israel together.
Yes.
So if you could comment on that.
I
Thank you
will.
very much.
Yes, I will. So Christy is putting together a trip to Israel for patriots in our district. She is working with the consulate office, working with the trade office that we opened up last week to get a big discount for people to go on a 10-day trip to Israel. Now, the first part of the trip is a biblical tour where you go everywhere. You see everything. You're on the Mount Olives, and you were where Christ was, and you're where Abraham was getting ready to slay Isaac. The second part is a political tour, which my contacts in Israel will agree to set up. That's going in the embassy. That's talking to the Israeli government. That's talking to the leaders that deal and talk with our administration. That is the type of trip that we're going to put on, and I'm going to ask her to come here and talk to y'all more about that. And it's going to be hope it's at a reasonable cost because I can't afford to take her and all my kids again. But it's going to be a great trip, and it's going to be more to follow. And I'll get her out here to talk to you about it. It's going to be great. And in closing, really quick, the question was asked about the threats on me. Yes, I'm still getting threats. We had a person a couple of months ago that broke into our home. Christy was in the shower. Sarah Beth was getting ready for school in our room. And I have dogs, chihuahuas, bark like they're having heart attacks. Yeah. So somebody was in our house and left and did whatever. However, they got scared of the dogs. That's one instance. We had another instance where someone put some stuff on our yard. We had one instance where someone said that the next time that they see me, I'll probably be in a box, or next time my wife sees me, I'll be in a box. So I'm constantly getting threats. And I'm getting threats because people don't like what I stand for. And it's the left. It's the left that is doing it. They don't like the fact that I can speak for myself, that I can think for myself, that I work and take care of my family, that I don't rely on the government for welfare, and that I am a proud American. So we're going to continue to get them. We've had the FBI involved. The state troopers have, they protect me when I'm at the Capitol. I have a security detail that protects me when I go to Flagstaff. And that's no joke. And whenever they think there's a threat out, you know, I have a detail that comes out to protect me because, you know, there are folks out there that really, they hate me. They hate me. So, and they would hurt me and my family. So.
Do you know why they hate you?
Do I know why they hate me?
You retired in the military because you're black? Any idea why? Because you're in politics or?
Well, I think they hate me because, you know, I carry a gun in my car. I don't know. So, and I want to let them know that I carry a firearm. Yes, sir.
Don, last,
Okay, well,
Don.
Maybe the last comment, the Democrats think we're all stupid.
they do.
And they want to get us all high on marijuana to prove it.
Oh, they do. They do. They do. And they'll continue to do that. Hey, listen, I want to close up, and I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you. God bless you. And, you know, I appreciate that. And as I said before, I want you to hold me accountable. Hold me accountable, and I will continue to serve and do my job for you. So God bless you.
Okay. Thank you all.